Pushkraj, if you would like to sort of talk to us now, we've introduced you. So as I see that he's here, we can of course have some enlightenment from you as to what you see as the future of the beauty and salon industry post-COVID.
Thanks, Ritu. My sincere apologies to everybody on the call. I'm really sorry. I was, I was on and off the call all through. I still have a problem in logging in. Ritu, if you don't mind, can I mail the presentation across? There are a few slides basically to ensure that people are not distracted. I have some pretty pictures on it. Will it be possible for somebody from your team to project it? Because
sure.
I have now logged into the phone because there is a problem with my computer. So if you can give me an email ID to mail it to, I'll do that,
sure.
and then I'll just start talking.
Sure. Absolutely. Please mail it to me. I'll just, sure. Absolutely. Just give me 1 second.
So can I have the email ID, please? Hello?
Yeah, I've just messaged it to you, Pushkraj. I've just messaged you.
Sorry. It's at Franchise India, right?
That's right.
I'm really sorry, but I can't read it. I'm actually logging in through my phone. So it's franchiseindia.com, or is that .in?
.com.
Yeah, okay.
Sure, you can start the talk. We'll try to put in the slides as soon as I get the mail.
Sure. Thanks so much. Apologies again. So as we all know, we've been hearing lots of words, right? Or there are lots of new words which are becoming a part of our daily lingo, unprecedented, the new normal, hygiene, of course, lots of new things, lots of new ways of, I wouldn't say ways of working, at least for this industry. We've not been working and we've not got any serious or significant revenue for the last 30 days. But I must say that, when I look across all my colleagues, my franchisees, and when I say colleagues, people at the back end, people in the salons, people who meet customers, I must say with a lot of pride that morale is still extremely high. And I dare say that at least in the fraternity that I work with, the morale is at its highest ever, right? We've also used this time to train a lot of our people. So our education has been really on a high. We've done nearly 50,000 sessions across the last 5 weeks. That was almost higher than what we did across 6 months last year. So, of course, I think in these times, it is really important to focus on your talent and not just keep them engaged, but keep motivation and morale really high. That's what we are doing. And I'm sure a lot of my eminent panelists are also, really busy from morning to night doing exactly that, right? There is a rule which is called the rule of 21/90, right? And if we get the slides on, then maybe we can have them projected. Ritu, did you get the slides by any chance?
No, it's not come in as yet to my inbox. I think you might have not typed the email ID right.
No, I've got it right. Sorry, I'll do it once more.
Still. Okay, got it. Thanks. Got it. I'm just sending it across.
Sure.
Just give me 1 minute. You please continue.
Sure. Right, so the rule of 21/90, I didn't make it up, but it's conventional wisdom. We will experience this for the first time, I think, in our life, is that it takes 21 days to create a habit. And they say that about exercise and, sort of eating healthy and stuff like that. But it takes 90 days to create a lifestyle. And I think we are going to see the
We've lost
second
your
part
audio,
of it.
Mr. Pushkraj.
Yeah, my audio is on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
No, the audio is still not there.
I can hear him.
So if you can hear me, then I'll go on.
I can hear you, Pushkraj.
So I then on. So 21 days to health, exercise, learning a new skill and all of that. But the 90 days to transform and change and create a new lifestyle is what we will witness in a way that we have not seen before, right? And see, change is always happening around us. There is good change, there's bad change, which is always happening. It's a slow, continuous process. When you have a big, large event, right? And the large event could be like discovery of fire, discovery of the wheel, industrial revolution, the internet, smartphones, 9/11, right? Any of these events, they've left a lasting change, a lasting change in lifestyle, in ways of working in the world in general, right? And I think post-COVID, we will see a lot of those things change, because I think apart from, are you projecting the slides? Then we can move on to this one.
We're just getting them up, Pushkaraj. Just another minute or so.
We're seeing a lot of changes, and some of these changes, are really, I think, refreshing, and we never thought that we will. Yeah, maybe we can move the slide.
Next slide for Pushkaraj.
Yes. Slide after and after.
Next slide.
The slide after this. Right now I can see the 20. Yeah, so we will clearly see a lasting, change in the way consumers think, in the way businesses run, and in the way a lot of fundamental thoughts and philosophies really sit today, right? If you look at what's happening, right, there is an impact of COVID, like they say, on the respiratory system, but I think the impact of COVID on the brain is going to be a lot more significant and long lasting than the impact of it, on our health in the short term, right? Just look at some of these things. The word positive today in the world is the most negative and the most hated word, right? We used to hear of this phrase saying distance makes the heart, or absence or distance makes the heart grow fonder. Today, by keeping a distance, you're actually showing someone that you really care about that person. And this is here to stay, right? All of us who really like to give hugs and do warm handshakes and all that, I think, for some time we will have to forget that. And I just mean this as a small touch point, but in the ways we interact with consumers, in the way we interact with business associates, I think that will be a change that we'll see for some time. Hygiene will be on top of everybody's mind, right? And the hygiene which comes not out of, out of doing something good and taking care of yourself, but the hygiene which to begin with, which will start out of fear, right? So people will be fearful about lack of hygiene. People will be fearful about what is unclean, and clean will be actually, absolutely the next class. So I think that's really important. And I don't mean this in a, unfortunately, only in a very proactive, positive way. We will also do a lot of this out of fear. It's the kind of stuff that, our grandmothers told us about. We'll, go back to those times. And you can see when consumers come back to the wellness industry or retail industry or any other industry, hospitality, you will see this looming large. It's like the impact that 9/11 had when people started traveling back. Even today, there are so many changes that have come about after 9/11, the way we travel. And let's say even in Mumbai, the changes that have happened in the hospitality industry after the terror strikes on the Taj, right? They're here to stay. So we will see some of those changes. Sorry, I can't see this. Yeah, we are still on the same slide. People are already thinking, and you can see that in consumers, they're thinking a lot more about the smaller unit, right? They're thinking about themselves, they're thinking about immediate family, they're thinking about the outer core family, they're thinking about the community. And in a way that is unprecedented. We have not seen that level of thinking about yourself and the immediate ecosystem earlier on, right? Because we all love to think how we are global citizens, and we sort of scout around the world. Our thinking is really global. We are so networked and connected. But again, we can see that change. Trust and reputation is going to be really, really large, right? And at least at this point in time, and I dare say the people on this call will be, fortunate that, they are not really bothering about, or they are less bothered, let me say, about, you know, how they will survive or sustain for the next 2 or 3 months. But across the board, we will see the impact on the economy, impact on consumer sentiment more than sort of, you know, real purchasing power. You will see lack of trust or trust deficit between consumers and the providers of, you know, various goods and services of consumption. You will see lack of trust between companies and consumers and financial institutions. And therefore, I totally agree with what Ritu said. Big, trusted heritage and governance will be really beautiful. It will be really important for us as an industry to exhibit the highest standards of governance, trust, and build a reputation. So I think these, so, you know, brand building the fluffy way is not going to stand the test of this time. It will have to, you know, be based on concrete actions, and people will read a lot into our actions more than our words. Can we move to the next slide? And some of the opportunities, right? And I'd like us to be optimistic at this point in time. So if we look at what is in store for India and India as an idea whose time has come, I am extremely optimistic about it. So if we play this well, if we get our regulation right, if we have single point, quick clearances, we provide industries a lot of infrastructure, and we do have a very active speaking talent, I think we can actually get an advantage, right? Gate in November and India Gate in April, right? And you can see the difference in the environment, of course, but also the big difference is in the way the world sees India. I've, you know, exchanged notes with a lot of my B school batchmates who are in different parts of the world, and there is a huge respect for how India livelihoods over you know, pure economy. There will always be words should have been, you know, like this blanket, or should we have, you know, done it differently. But I think for a country of our size, our complexity and our density, I think we have repositioned ourselves in a very strong way. And if we play this right across manufacturing, education, technology, and I dare say even wellness, right? And wellness across portfolio. So we've got a great heritage of Ayurveda, but Ayurveda which can actually cure, Ayurveda which can operate in the preventive space to improve immunity, right? Can reposition how the Indian wellness portfolio is viewed. It's a great opportunity for Indian wellness professionals as well, right? And what our IT professionals did in 2000 and around then to sort of elevate the stature of India in the eyes of the world, our wellness professionals can actually do it as we go right now. And it's both a need in the world as well as, you know, a need for us, because we have a captive, you know, talent pipeline for 27. So we need to, you know, get them all gainfully employed and have meaningful livelihoods and lifestyles. I think one opportunity that will emerge out of in the post-COVID era will be India as an idea whose time has come. It may start with manufacturing and technology, but it will have its cascading effects across all industries, and I dare say consumption, you know, economy like wellness and beauty will also see its benefits. Can we move to the next one, please? Yeah, I think there are three themes that I'd like to touch upon, and you know, there will be lots of opportunities, right? And a lot of the problems that we see now, you can actually sort of turn them around on their head, and, you know, there will be opportunities for us to you know, build a meaningful business, build a meaningful brand proposition, and therefore, you know, meaningful P&L, right? But I think this is the time to be really purpose-led. If there was one time for all of us to put country, community, company before self, this is it, right? When we opened our history textbooks, right? I remember as a school student, I would always feel with a little touch of envy that, you know, if I was born during those times, even I would have done, you know, big things for the country. हमें तो कोई chance ही नहीं मिल रहा है अभी. But if there is one time to think company, community, and country, I think this is it. We need to think, and especially we are in the franchising world, right? So in Lakme, we have nearly 500 salons, of which 450 are franchisee salons, right? it is really critical for us to think partners and think partners, think ecosystem, especially focusing on the smaller, newer and weaker ones, and making sure that the more senior and the more established ones also think of themselves from the lens of people who have to play the role, responsibility and take care of their teams, right? So we need to really, really think about our partners in the ecosystem. The third part is that, we really need to be consumer centric. The way consumers will evaluate propositions, evaluate, their consumption habits and how they spend not just their money, but their time will change phenomenally. And those who are focused on the consumer's way of evaluating propositions and reoriented their strategy and execution, I think will win, right? It is important to be focused on who you are and what really your purpose is, but there will be, you need to be a little flexible about the details on how you will get to your goal. Can we move to the next one? So the first theme is about being purpose-led. The second one is we should, and I think, that's clearly coming in, it comes very naturally to us in India, is we should separate investments from expenses, right? The first, we should really insulate and protect. It's very easy to start cutting costs left, right, and center, and really forget what is good cost and what is bad cost, right? Like cholesterol, there is a good cost and there is a bad cost. So we should insulate, ring fence, and protect what is investment, so which is expansion on the core, on education, on digitization and technology, and on productive talent and making talent more productive, right? I think those are areas. There could be others as well. Long term. So emotion or ego driven choices, right? I think we don't need them right now. Non-core expansion, right? It always seems like good to have like 5 different verticals, but this is not the time for it. A fancy office, we all love those, right? But this may not be the best time to do it. In fact, I think real estate is one industry which, if people get really comfortable and companies allow them to get comfortable with using technology and working from home, I think we have 2x the supply of offices in the country, right? And as it is, we have vacancies. So I just think some of these expenses we need to review in the new ways of working and in the way the world will work going forward. Unproductive talent, and of course we must put a lot of investment in making that talent productive, but you can't have fluff in an organization, right? Especially in the roles which don't face the customer. And I think traditional working methods, this is the time to really go back to first principles and question each and everything that you do. And if it passes the test, then you should continue doing it, right? You shouldn't do something because you've always been doing it in a certain way. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so a plethora of opportunities, right? I don't think we will have any dearth of opportunities in our country, right? My good friend CKK had once told me that, India is a country where opportunity is like rain, and it depends on what vessel you have in your hand. You put out a spoon, you'll get a spoonful of water. You put out a small bowl, you'll get a small bowl of water. You go out and build a tank, you'll get a tank full of water. You can also go and build a large lake and you'll get a lake full of water. And I totally agree. I don't think in the medium term and thereon, COVID is going to disturb that, right? So there are a bunch of opportunities. There will be opportunities which will come from new and efficient ways of working. That has an impact on our P&L. We can reinvest that in, strengthening our core. There will be new needs to look good, right? The VC call look, the house party look, the TikTok look, they're all emerging right now. There will be new needs to feel good as well, right? DIY care will become really big, right? Just think about post-dishwashing manicure treatments. And I dare say, even what I'm trusted with in my house, I think it will do well for men as well, right? There will be new people that you can reach out to using technology, right? Earlier, you were limited by access, and you can use technology in a very targeted, precision-oriented way, and people will be willing to consume those experiences digitally as well. Right? We took our time, and the third of India, which you could call as the true digital citizens, we can see that expand as we go. New ways to educate. We have done 50,000 training sessions, all online. And, we would typically, me personally, we would be dismissive in this industry. You can't do skill sessions online, right? So there will be new ways to educate, and this the opportunity here is there for quality will thrive over availability, right? Because if I can do a session, only our best trainers can do those sessions. We don't need like the average trainer who is available, in 20 different cities in the country to do these sessions, because our national creative director can actually go across and do a high quality session for 500 people across, right? New needs in preventive health, new demands in hygiene. There will be new verticals which will start getting created across all of these, right? And of course, all of us have the responsibility, and I'm not saying it will be a good to have, it will be critical as an industry to go back and rewire our customer journey to ensure that hygiene and safety is elevated at every touch point in that customer journey. The sooner we do it, the more convincingly we do it, and the more sustained that we do it, we will build reputation for the industry. New demands in stress management and happiness. The amount of stress that people go through when they don't interact, I think it will settle down, but I think that's again a big area for us to really look at. There will be new regulatory and compliance needs, right? Without too much travel, and I don't see too much travel happening in the next year or two. When that happens, actually in economics, there is a funda called lipstick effect, right? And you will see consumers spend a lot more on small indulgences, and therefore services and products which help people look good, feel good, get more out of life will have I think I wouldn't say explosive, but should have exponential growth, right? There will be new ways to interact with consumers, right? We will have to think about contactless. A lot of delivery partners, food delivery partners have already moved to contactless delivery, right? We will need to really reduce the number of contacts and the number of touch points, but therefore the points that you actually get allowed the touch, I think there we really need to elevate the delivery. There will be new ways again to present our traditional wellness and healthcare practices. I think this is a huge opportunity for our country. So there will be a plethora of opportunities. What is important for every individual, every business, every brand, every company is to first ask themselves 5 whys, right? Because opportunities will be there a dime a dozen, but you ask yourself 5 whys, and if you're satisfied with the answers to those whys, then you should dive into it. Otherwise, I think it's important to focus on your core and get that absolutely right and make that big. Sorry, can we move to the next one? Hello, can we move to the next slide? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, these are my favorite lines, right? And I think they in some way contradict each other, but we are at the cusp of this contradiction, right? The long run is really a series of short runs, right? If you are climbing the ladder, yes, of course, the ladder will keep going, but you have to focus on the next rung and go. So when we are looking at the immediate short term, when we get back to business and get back to our consumers, we have to ensure that we play safe. We must ensure that we conserve cash, conserve resources, use them really well, be efficient with them, and we demonstrate and actually live a lot of care. And first with our teams and our partners, and then of course, extend it through them to our consumers. The second, and famous economist actually has said that in the long run, we are all dead. But I think for us to think about the long term, we must think really rigorously about the various opportunities that surround us, think through why you should do it, then think big once you've selected an opportunity, and then build or join an ecosystem to make it big. This will be a time where consumers will want a lot of interventions especially on safety, hygiene. They will trust larger, bigger, and more reputed or better governed brands and companies and associations and governments. And I think, becoming part of a larger ecosystem might be a better way to tackle this both in the short as well as the long term. Right, so that was really my 2 bits. Back to you, Ritu. And I'm really, really sorry about all the tech glitches. I hope we were able to get things across.
Thank you very much, Pushkraj. I think that was truly a good start to this webinar, because you really put in context as to what is the future looking like and what as an industry one should concentrate. So taking a cue from what you've just said in your previous slides, I understand that trust deficit is going to be there. We're talking about social distancing, and acquiring new customers is going to be really hard. So how is it that, you see that we keep our existing customers loyal? At least they should not feel the brunt or not feel the reason to not being able to safely walk into the stores where they've already been visiting.
So sorry, Ritu, can you frame the question? Are you saying that will old customers continue to be loyal?
No, I'm asking that, getting new customers for any salon, whether small or large, is going to be difficult at this stage, because anyway, we have a trust deficit situation right now with social distancing. So how is it that we keep our existing customers more loyal? How can we make sure that we promise them the right things, promise them the right safety, so that they are able to walk into the store without feeling the fear that, they might fall sick or they may catch an infection?
So one, I think, more than convincing them, I think we need to do all the right things, right? So we need to ensure that we don't rush into this, right? There might be this hunger for getting revenues in and, getting the business back on its feet. But one wrong move, and I think it will be like, one step forward and 10 steps backwards. So one, we should all go back and ensure that our salons indeed are really safe, right? So deep cleaning, sanitization, a lot more equipment on safety hygiene. I think that's critical. A lot of training on safety and hygiene for our staff, right? Because a lot of those may be included in our SOPs, but at this point in time, we could do a lot better on executing them with a lot of discipline and rigor. So I think one, we have to go back and get that focus on safety, hygiene, and care absolutely right. And then two, we can communicate that to our customers, and customers, they will see through this very quickly, right? So they will see through and see a genuine, safe customer journey, very different from somewhere where you promise everything and it's not there. And this is not one of those good to have, right? It will be critical to have it, and consumers will just walk away if they don't find that level of care and attention to hygiene across the journey. So I think we will need to first walk the walk, and then we can talk the walk.
That's right. That's actually well put. Now, I was reading a statement by the CEO of TCS, which is one of the largest IT companies we have, and he said that our recruitment model is 20 years old. And, we need better way of hiring people and how we measuring people's productivity. And that's going to probably be true across board. The way we hire people, the way we sort of measure their productivity, optimization of the people might now change much more than what it was earlier. So everybody is now going to, and you've been talking about managing costs, but people is a very important part of the beauty industry, beauty services industry. So how is it that you're going to make your talent more compatible? How can you upskill your talent? How can you make sure that you're able to do more with less? So do you have some suggestions for it?
Ritu, is the question to me?
Yes.
Okay.
Right now, you're the only one here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I can't see the other panelists. That's why, I'm...
No, the panel is just going to join in. So we're just getting the panelists all in after this.
Oh, okay. Got it. So I think, number one, this is a world that the post-COVID world will be a world which will be a lot more efficient, right? Because people have seen, and companies like TCS, of course, they are in the IT space, so they have really seen workflow and continue through remote working and agile working as well. I think as a company, they were better prepared for it than some of the others. And while you can hear from some IT players that, their systems crashed and hacking happened and all of that, a company like TCS actually had prepared for it a lot better over the last couple of years. But even if I look at some of our back office roles, right, we clearly saw that, there is really no need for people to really travel for 2 hours a day. And it's not like, COVID is going to switch off, right? We will live in slightly risky times for a couple of months, even after the lockdown is lifted. And there is no need for us to have everybody queuing in and sitting in one workplace all through. So you will see in some of the back office roles, a lot of efficiency coming in. And by efficiency, I don't mean significant reduction in roles, or maybe not reduction in roles, but it's just a more efficient way of working so that you can just do more things and you can do them a lot more effectively and you can measure impact, right? When it comes to the front end, I think it will be critical for us to be productive at the front end, right? And therefore training on both counts, one on the the new SOPs and things where hygiene is elevated, I think is critical. But at the other end on, how do you deliver the best results for your customers and how do you sort of keep in touch with your customers to keep them coming for more will be even more imperative, right? Because in all probability, we may not be able to operate salons at full capacity. There could be, reasons why, because of social distancing, we need to operate them, at a certain threshold of occupancy. And that could mean, different things for productivity and therefore impact on revenues.
Sure. Can we also have the rest of the panel in? Priyadarshini, can you probably invite the rest of the panel to also join in?
Thank you so much, Pushkaraj. You were very insightful. I'm sure a lot of people might have found this talk really helpful. So our next panel is a panel discussion, which is approximately for 60 minutes. Our panelists today are Mr. Javed Habib, celebrity hairstylist and founder, Javed Habib Hair and Beauty Private Limited. Mr. Sachin Kamat, director, Enrich Hair and Skin Solution Private Limited. And Mr. Elliot Walker, founder and CEO of the Massage Company.
Sure. Thanks very much. So thank you for joining us here in the panel today. We have a great panel. So let me start with Mr. Javed Habib. Now, Mr. Habib, you've, you understand the whole pulse of the industry, not just in the big cities, but also in the smaller cities of this country. And what is your contention about how the behavior of the customer is going to change? But not just that, how is the behavior of the staff going to change? Obviously, if the customer feels that he or she is at risk, the staff also feels that they might not be completely safe going to the salon, and because they are contacting the customer. So there is always an off chance that they might catch something that they don't want. So how is it that we can ensure the safety of the customer as well as the safety of the staff once the lockdown is up and our stores are open?
I think the world is changing, and as well as our industry also changing. I think whatever you have been doing it, we need to work. We need to work on a new system completely. We need to bring trust first, a trust between our client and a hairdresser. I think that's the most important. A client is so scared coming to a salon. I think that's only possible through education. So we need to really work a lot on the education system. Education will bring hygiene in a salon. Education will bring, in fact, it will also organize the industry also. And all these small players may be just wiped out. Maybe they have to become a part of some franchising group, or maybe a conversion. I think the new system will start as conversion. The franchising may just go slow down. This is what I feel. For next 3 to 6 months time, it's not good for industry. Let's understand this. Because we need that time to build a trust. And that trust the trust will take time. It can't be overnight. I mean, I just start saying, oh yes, my salon's safe. No, I think it will take some time. So I think let's start working on a system first. And so when I say system means start creating a system SOP for technical team. Yes, now this is what is the new industry. And we need to understand one more thing, the industry, the hairdresser, 90% hairdressers are not even educated, and they will take a lot of time. Trust me, they will take so much time because they all think they know everything. Because see, I'm a hairdresser myself. I'm a hairdresser myself, so I understand this industry so well, and because I'm a teacher also, so I understand. And today, Javed Habib Group is 900 plus salon. That's a huge number. And we have 10,000 people working for us. That's a huge number. We run 80 academies. That's a huge number. So our industry need education, a completely new structure, a completely new system. And I think that is to create a trust. And that trust will take time. I mean, I know we have been talking about hygiene. Hygiene will come, but it will come with the time. It can't be overnight. But one thing, the most important, this industry will be organized so well now. This is like a new hair industry is coming up. This is like a new wellness industry is coming up. I think this is all because of this COVID. So I think I'll say that because of this, industry is changing for a better future. Industry is changing for an organized future, which will do wonders for all of us. And only the big player will survive now, not a small player. If they want to survive, please shift to a brand. You know why?
Right.
The reason for that, because the consumer will trust only a brand now. They will be so scared going to a salon, even for eyebrows, even for a shampoo. And, after this, doctors, salon industries will be the most, they will suffer the most. And I think industry won't be opening up before July. This is what I feel. So I think let's be ready. It can't be open on next month. It can't be open even in June. I think we'll be only opening in July sometime, because maybe this is for a safety reason of the world, of India. So this is what is my thing. Let's create a trust, client, trust for hairdresser, trust for a system, trust for our partners. I think this is what is required.
Sure. And, obviously, because the whole franchisee, you have a big franchise network. Pushkaraj has a huge franchise network at Lakme. So, what is the main sort of restless areas today that your franchisees are facing? What is most biggest concerns that they have today that you're trying to address?
When the industry will start again, because they've invested so much money, for them, their concern is only money at the moment. So they're only waiting when the industry will start.
Sure. Okay, great. So I'll come back to you again, Mr. Habib, in a while. Let me come to Sachin. Now, Sachin, you run Enrich salons in Mumbai, and we're talking that Maharashtra is, of course, one of the most affected areas, and only the numbers are looking to grow more rapidly in Maharashtra and Gujarat than in other parts of the country. Now, how in such a situation, when you have locations across the state, and some can open and some cannot open, how are you expecting to perform your operations correctly? How are you expecting to maintain a supply chain? How are you expecting to sort of make sure that the overall operational capability of the organization is still being able to meet, even when there is a staggered opening happening in the country?
I think we are right now starting to talk about opening, correct? But I believe right now we need to first figure out when we will open. And that is still a question that is out there and open. I can tell you that when this first started, in China, I remember I was working with some teams there, and January, after the Chinese New Year, they didn't come back to work for a couple of weeks. And we really didn't take too much notice, and we said, okay, project is getting postponed for a bit. Soon after that, we started seeing our government taking some notice, and now we are more than 5 weeks in lockdown. And frankly, while all of us are talking post-COVID, the big $1 million question is, when will it open? So the only thing we can do is to use this time to work on each of those things, work on what is it that, which of the services can I start doing, how well can I do it, what are the systems and procedures I can put out there, and have your team engaged and trained and ready, and try and move along and see how it goes. You rightly said it could well be that we operate in 6 cities, in 3 states. It could well be that some city will start ahead of time, and maybe in a certain city one part might open, but that is something we will all need to get prepared for. So the only way to do that is work with your teams, work with your customers, build a new SOP, start training the people on it, and keep the engagement and the enthusiasm high, and deal with it on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis. That seems to be the, I know all of us have heard this thing about live in the now. This is probably the time when you have to do that the most, because
Sure.
You will see situations emerging on a ongoing basis, because truth is that only when the curve flattens and starts, curve flattening is the first thing, but doesn't mean things will begin. That is just the starting point. So you will have to keep planning and implementing and being ready for as and when we can start, and in whichever manner we can.
Sure.
No.
Thanks, Sachin.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go on.
I was saying no,
Okay.
no single straight answer for that. It has to be, you have to be present progressive. If I were to use the term, so you have to keep ready and keep readiness ongoing, and keep your people and your systems charged and ready.
Sure. No, that's a good point. You have to be progressive and, wait for things to happen as they come to you. I also have Elliot here with us in the panel. Elliot has joined us from United Kingdom. Welcome, Elliot. It's good to have you. Elliot is the founder and CEO of the massage company. So Elliot, what is it like? You have today got stores in UK and some other parts of the world. What is it that you are facing out there in terms of, people or the consumer consciousness, or whether it is about how do you see the market changing? And what is it from a government point of view, you feel you're at much at rest, which of course in India, the government does not have sort of the reserves to be able to give a big fiscal stimulus. But what is it that the government of UK is doing for you, which at least Indian industry can go and demand from the government? So it would be good to know from you.
Hey everybody, and welcome from London. It's great to be with you all. So in the UK, we went into lockdown on the 23rd of March, and we come out of lockdown, or the next review happens on May the 7th. And we really, there's a lot of comments and a lot of media attention around coming out of lockdown, and the government are trying to resist giving that information to try and keep people in their houses at the current time. That's quite different. So in Europe, on one hand, we have Sweden that didn't lock down, is completely open. All the bars and restaurants are open, and they do not have a big death rate. And there are now businesses that are starting to come out of lockdown across Europe. So Germany is starting to open up small shops and some schools. France on May the 11th will open up all of retail except their bars and restaurants. And Denmark 3 days ago, so on the 20th of April, opened hairdressers. They opened beauticians. They opened tattoo parlors and opticians. But their borders are closed, and other restrictions still remain in place until May the 10th. So there are some lessons that when countries like the UK and India that are still in lockdown, we will be able to take some lessons maybe a week or two before we get to come out of lockdown. So that's the kind of situation in Europe, and in the UK within the beauty industry, we don't know. I mean, we're in a 3-stage process for our business at the moment. We're planning, we're preparing, and we're looking at how once we do open and once we get past the stage that customers are coming back and the confidence is returning, so that we can actually, what we can do to try and propel our business forwards. But we don't know the future just like anybody else, but we are planning different scenarios as much as we can. And regarding the government, so the UK government has been brilliant for businesses. I'm sure there'll be lots of things they will look back on and wish they'd done differently, how they protected doctors and nurses and things like that. We have a big thing with personal protective equipment at the moment. But from a government to small businesses, they've been brilliant. So all of the government charges for, we would call it business rates, which is kind of a charge by the local governments to be able to open your business. Those have been cancelled for 12 months. Businesses have been given a grant towards their businesses. So again, up to a certain size, they will be given money that they do not need to repay. And one of the best thing, again, from the government is that we've been able to furlough staff. So every staff member was able to be put on furlough, paid for by the government, and that would mean that their wages were paid, 80% of their wages were paid up to a certain amount and a cap. So staff are protected, which is amazing. because a lot of businesses wouldn't be able to do that. And a lot of businesses will be protected with the support they're getting from the government. So we are opening. Most businesses will get through this. How it looks and how we do that, I think that's what we're on the call today to find out.
Sure. No, that's a lot of relief, which Indian beauty entrepreneurs are not going to ever get, but good to know. I'll come to another question now. You said that, most of the costs, is it that something that the government has covered you for? Now, my question to Indian beauty entrepreneurs and brand owners is today that how are you managing the costs? I mean, as Iliac just mentioned that, they have been able to send their staff on furlough. So is it something that we can possibly do here in India also? How can we manage our fixed costs better? Are we negotiating with our landlords that they can defer the rent or probably not take rent for the period in which the salon was shut down in the mall or a high up or a high street location? So what is it that we are trying to do to reduce the cost? Mr. Habib, let me start with you. You said that your franchisees' biggest concern today is money. So how is money going to come in? But what about the money that is going out? How are you going to, or how are you telling them to reduce that expense right now?
Well, I think we are trying to talk to all the landlords. If that's possible, let's work on it. Number one. Number two, of course, paying to all the technical team. And I think we should pay to all the technical team because they work so hard for us. So I think we have to look after them because we need to understand the soul of our industry are the technical team. So we have to look after them. So we must pay their salaries, and our partner should pay their salaries because they are minting so much money. So if they are making so much money, why can't they pay extra money to all the technical people? But for landlord, I think we need to talk to them. We need to request them. And I'm sure if they are human, they'll understand because we are not doing purposely. This is all happening.
Sure. Pushkaraj, are you there? What is it that you are doing in order to, what is it that you're telling your franchisees in order to reduce their costs right now?
So one, of course, like Javed said, we have told them to focus on talent at this point in time, and they must ensure that the team's livelihoods and, some of them are also away from their hometown. They're a little short of supply. So they're really taking good care of their teams. So that is one thing that we have, and I think about 98-99% of our franchisee partners have really stood up to the occasion and they've taken care of that. Our business development team is helping them renegotiate rents or ask for a moratorium or ask for a rent waiver in this period. And again, I would say we've got a reasonable success on that one. We have taken some measures to infuse liquidity, especially for the smaller, weaker, and newer partners, right? So we have gone to the extent of actually, lending them money so that they can pay their staff, the minimum wages for the town, etc. So we have really taken steps what the franchisee partner really needs. For the weaker and the newer partners, we have actually, gone to the extent of giving them some money so that they can, give it to their staff, tide through these times, and then come back and, return that. There are some various payments that they make to the company, right? So we've, of course, deferred those so that again, that's liquidity in the hands of the partners.
Sure. Sachin, since you have mostly got company-owned stores, what is it that you're doing to reduce the costs?
Like everyone, we have spoken to each of the, for example, our real estate partners, the people who we've leased our places from. We've spoken to all of them, and we have asked them to help us during this time. Now, in normal times, we try our best, and we pride ourselves in the fact that we probably try and be the best tenants anybody could have. And we have long-term relationships with long leases with people. So I would say all of them have actually come back saying that they would help us and be with us during this time. Coming to our people, again, we believe that our fundamental beauty grooming model is something that is very relevant and people will need it, and we will come back as and when things are better. and during this time, we'd like to do our best to keep our flock along with us. Yes, the revenues have stopped. So with whatever money we have to make our best to try and last it through this time. And we can only hope that it extends to whatever time that we can plan for. And during this time, there will be sacrifices to be made. So so we will keep all our people with us, even those who have joined us very recently, because that's something we care for deeply, and we will in a laddered manner we will make sacrifices to make sure that our team is taken care of, but we see through this time, because one of the things that you'll realize is that if each one of the team members bears a little bit of the weight, then totally it can be much more manageable than having it concentrated in one go. So the approach we are going for is a laddered one, and we've been talking to our people very regularly. We connect with them at least once a day or more than once a day, to all the 2,000 odd people, and we've been very transparent and straight with them. We've taken their views as well, and we're trying to, like I said, manage this time in as lean a manner as we can, so that we still have, if for example this thing extends a little more than we anticipate, we still need to have some way back for that.
Sure. Ilyas, let me ask you this, that do you feel that all the services that you were offering in your stores are going to continue like that, or are you going to sort of make some changes into it? Some could be labeled as essential services and some could be labeled as non-essential services, and how are you sort of planning your marketing around them?
So for our services, we specialize only in massage. So that is the question. That is the question: is what customers are going to be coming back? You can certainly see that. Again, Denmark's a great example. Hairdressers have just opened. Hairdressers are packed. They are all saying that they have got their diaries are now full for over a month ahead. So if that is part of your business, then we have evidence already that customers feel safe coming back. I think Jawad is completely right. The customers will be so much more confident with a brand and bigger companies than independent. It's just the way it is. There are so many bad practices that go on in small independent. They're not all bad, but there are some. And the confidence that people can get with brands where we have trained in consistency, safety, cleanliness already, that will be a big trust factor for customers. So when we see what customers are likely to different services, I think that will be the key. But we have a membership model, so our customers don't pay as they come in. They pay monthly on a subscription, like a gym or a software subscription. And because of that, we're in regular contact with our customers, and we still are over this period. They've still allowed us to carry on taking their subscription. Some have put that on hold, but a large percentage have kept that going. And so the feeling is that our customers will want to come back. But I think there's going to be different groups of customers. Even today, we're allowed to go to the supermarkets. There's plenty of European countries where you're not allowed to leave the house, but we're allowed to go out. And there are people that wear the masks and the face covering, just as there are those that don't. And I think when we do go back to through the stages of a post-COVID world, there will be customers that jump on this, and the trailblazers and the innovators, those that go first. And then there'll be those that keep a bit of reserve. And I think that will be the key business thing for us is, what is the right point to open? Is it economic? Are there enough customers in that first groups to open? And when is that important crossing point over?
Sure. No, I completely agree with you there. So we're getting a lot of questions from our audience who are there. I'm glad to see we have about 120 people who are listening to our talk right now. So I'm going to open up for a few questions from the audience. Can we give the audio to Ved, please, if he's there?
Hi, Sachin. I think Sachin, I have met you in person, yeah. And I think I should tell my MD
Hi.
to do more meetings and conferences so I can meet the rest of the team rather than, and I'm sure, I think most of us are in Mumbai, so I think all the meetings will not happen in Mumbai. So my question was, I think is addressed in many ways, and I think this is one of the biggest fear, because I work for a company called Heaven on Earth, which is also known as Serena Spas, and we operate spas in India, Maldives, Singapore. And since we are fully based on touch, so, we could see this happening is, as we were shutting our airport operations and we're shutting hotel operations, the last 3-4 days, we could start to see the fear in the staff, when they started to hear the news that is more. So we didn't have as a refusal as such, but they were very cautious, and they were more cautious if they came to know they had to deal with someone who had traveled abroad. So how do you think so this would affect the industry? Because, we are trying to do all we can do in terms of safety, but then you will have to touch somebody, right? You can't, that's the whole point for us in our business specifically.
Ved, who's this question for?
Yeah, this question is for, I think, everybody. I think, mostly I think for the massage company, because I think we sail in the same boat. And of course, I think even Enrich has got some of massages been happening. So that's even for that matter, waxing, something which really touches the body straightforward. So how much do you think so the fear would stay in the staff, and how can we overcome that?
Okay, I'll just take it first, and then maybe Elliot can take it. But I believe here again, it is about setting expectation and managing expectation. So even before the lockdown, I think by about the second week of March, we had already said that we will not do threading, because it's the way we do it in our country. It's the proximity is higher. We had already introduced self-declaration forms in the salon. We had already increased the frequency and the stringency of our cleanliness and hygiene. The reason we were able to do this is because in Enrich, we've got our quality discipline. We are 24 years old. Our quality discipline, formal quality discipline, is 11 years old. We have standard SOPs. We have metrics for it. We have quality audits and surprise audits, and the results of these audits are embedded into their remuneration and so on and so forth. So when you have already a system and process based offering, it becomes simpler for you to do newer things through that same channel. So in this matter also, what we are doing is we have been constantly in touch with our team members, and we're trying to figure out from them, because they do these things themselves. We find out best practices, we work with them, we set up expectations. Our sourcing teams and our academy teams are creating new SOPs. We are then training our people on it. This thing is about co-creating an experience with your customer and your technician and your academy teams. It's a little more complex and it is exhausting, but that is the way to go. For example, yes, I will have my technician be there and ready, but what about my customer? My customer needs to feel comfortable as well. So on this side of it, we've started a dialogue over the last week, 10 days. We started with a small survey, got people to tell us what they were bothered about and what was there in their mind. We asked them whether we could discuss more with them. Today, there are about 4,000 plus of our customers who are helping us with what we should do, how we should do. And then we take that, build on it, and we share it to the rest of them. So while it's on one side helping us create a new experience, on the other side, it is helping us keep up both our technicians and our customers in the know. because I think it is a matter of carrying everybody along with you. So, and we have to time all this to the opening, or as and when that happens in a staggered manner or slow manner, so that we are able to match expectations of the customer, of our technician. Because one of the things fundamentally that we have learned, and it sounds a little philosophical, but if you see with all the each business, each country has been spending all this time worrying about themselves, right? So even with all the borders and visas and security norms and all that, one person somewhere in the world got this, and today the rest of the world is dealing with it. So what we could not achieve by each one thinking just for themselves, we will now have to manage by each one of us thinking about somebody else. So one of the things we've done, for example, is a new initiative which is called Me to We. If you see, we believe now that an individual cannot just think of themselves. They have to think of the other person, and that is the way to go forward. So that is what is driving our thinking, because we believe somewhere that going forward, each one of us can be safe only when all of us are safe. So that means, yes, I will tell my landlords that I can't pay you for the next few months, but I have to make sure they survive it through. I will tell my product partners that I need extra credit, but I have to make sure that their interest is taken care of too. I can just not think only about myself. Each one of us, only when we and it's very paradoxical, right? So if you see, in a manner, the world has turned upside down, but if you see the letters me and you put it upside down, it becomes we. So unless we all think about our entire fraternity, our ecosystem, and carry them along, that is the way to go. Whether it is
well said, Sachin.
Whether it is the technician or the customer or the landlord or the SaaS provider, whichever way you have it.
Sure. Elliot, you want to add to this?
Briefly, yes, because the confidence, this is about getting confidence back. And we've got two really important groups, haven't we? We've got the consumer confidence and them believing that we can come safely into our environments. And then we've also got the staff. And who creates this confidence? Well, it's definitely by our actions, but what we want to do is we need to stay ahead of government regulations, because India, like the UK, is in the beauty industry, is an unregulated market. So if we can stay ahead of those before regulations come in, then we're leading the market, we're deciding, and we are putting forward what should change. But and that will all come from our actions. So specifically regarding the staff, this is going to be a whole process right through. So taking the staff, the staff training, refreshing, right through and into individual customers, because some customers won't be able to come back initially, at high risk groups, maybe certain people over a certain age, again, just from government restrictions. So some things will be mandated, but we've got to help give that confidence to staff and customers.
Sure. We'll take the next question from Varun. If we can pass in the audio, please.
A very good evening to all. I think this is a great initiative. I actually represent a branded salon outlet. I'm a franchisee. I just wanted to ask the panel a few. In fact, I have a lot of questions, but just to shorten it, because the current concern for most of us as owners is the fixed costs, the very high fixed costs which we have. And since we don't know when exactly the outlets are going to be allowed to be open, somebody said July, it could be June. So with the very heavy fixed costs which we have, I'm just wondering, is there a way, how do we sustain ourselves till things come back to normal? And when do you think the normal will come? Do you think it's going to happen in 6 months or 12 months? When do you think we'll be back to our normal self? This question is open for all. I mean, anybody.
Can I say, Varun?
Yes.
Varun, I think at least 6 months time. So let's be ready. Let's be just ready. I think it will start late, number one. And even if you start some services, it's going to be very limited. Maybe just a haircut, maybe just essential services. So if you are talking of a full-fledged salon, maybe 6 months. How are we going to sustain our industry or your brand or your salon? You need to talk to your landlord, because I think that's the main cost. That's the major cost at the moment. I mean, you can talk to your team member. Okay, I will pay you in stages. I will pay you maybe 50% now. And of course, consumers are not coming, but you can still talk to all your companies. They can give a good credit. I think this is how you have to sustain. And I think this is what we have been talking to all our partners also, because the 900 number is not a small number. And it's not just 900, it's 120 state of India. So maybe some state, maybe in Guwahati, we can start a salon, but still we can't start the whole services. It has to be a limited services. So I think we need to just start thinking how to get ready to sustain yourself for next 6 months time.
Can I?
Pushkaraj, you? Okay, sure. Go ahead, Sachin.
This is a difficult answer. I'll tell you what. Right now, when we are closed, we have certain costs.
Yeah.
When you'll open, your costs are going to increase, but your revenue is not going to come back to normal very soon. So that's going to actually take a bigger toll. Correct. And that's a staggering thing to think of. So if you ask me when will the normal return, I'm going to take a tough answer and say never. But a new normal will come. We will find a way to. We will find a new order. We will find a new way to make things work in the new reality. I was, for example, listening to some other industry people a couple of days back. So in the hospitality, if we think we are badly hurt, hospitality industry, hotels, think of them. But because they had some stranded tourists, they had to keep the hotels working and the kitchens opening. They said, okay, 5-star hotels are now doing takeaway. Okay. Each kind of business is now trying to say, don't think of when normal will come. Think this is the situation. I need to survive for the next 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, along with my team. What is the best way in which I can find a way to survive in this? So the first thing will be to try and survive. And second is to find a new way, a new model, figure out things that will work. So you have to accept, adapt, acquire whatever new skill there is and start applying it. It's not a simple one, but it's not impossible at all. Because we've, as an economy and as a people, we've seen many of these.
Sure. Mr. Habib, there is one question I have for you, since you mentioned that, do you feel that we can, with such a big staff and, and so much franchise network, we should be looking at starting alternative services like, go home services, or, where having it where the customer is more comfortable giving a service to him instead of giving it to, calling him to the salon. Do you think that could be possible?
I'm not in the favor of home services. I'm not in the favor of it at all. I think what we can do is maybe we do one day chemical services only. The next day we just do facials. I think that's how we have to work on it. But home services, no, never. Let's not even think about it. And I'm sure the people who are in this industry who are doing home services, they have to wait. They will suffer. So home services from my side, big no. Ritu.
Sure. Pushkaraj, do you see an opportunity in this?
See, I think we have to read the consumer better and the consumer's view will change. So I don't want to sort of, preempt what the consumer will want. But I see a huge risk in doing home services because you're going to expose your experts to go and meet consumers. And see, this is not a space where you can really, and I can understand you can use Arogya Setu and you can, try and use technology, but I am quite concerned about exposing my team and my experts to the risk of going to some, locality and going to a consumer's home and catching the virus, because this is not a virus which, you can meet a person and you know whether he's a silent carrier or he's not, right? When you're walking through, and, largely our businesses in large metros, or even in the mini metros, you've got largely people stay in apartment complexes, right? So it's not like you're getting in straight into that room of the consumer where you're delivering that service, right? You have to go through several gates, various touch points, you meet various people, and I'm not in favor of exposing our teams to that kind of a risk and danger, number one. And number two, we rush into this really fast because today's consumers want home services, or let's say some other, home services vertical player starts it. And, let's God forbid, if there is, there are a couple of incidents which spell disaster, it will be like several steps back for the industry. I would much rather make the salon a safe haven, a fortress of safety, safer than the consumer's house. And I agree with Sachin totally, right? You make the salon safer than the consumer's house, take the high ground on safety. We have now worked on our protocols with also people for, we've taken, total, a total feedback from the system. Some of our brand partners who have developed these protocols for overseas markets, put it all together. In Lakme, we have an advisory council which has our best performing franchisees. We have taken help from them, and they have really worked on this like it was their school project, right? So put all that together, and then comes the big task. Actually, this, while it's comprehensive and actually the easier part to control the whole thing. The big part is now to ensure that every expert understands first why this is done. It's not a good to have, right? It's not to be done because the company is asking you to do it. It has to be done because you care for your life, the life of your near and dear ones back home, and that of your customers and the life of customers around, right? So, and their family members around them. So this is, everyone really needs to understand that you're all but a small link in the chain, and the chain will be as strong as its weakest link. So if you allow yourself to be weak, you will screw up the chain.
Hi Pushkaraj, next question is for you by one of the viewers, Monisha. And she's asking about the comment you made regarding evaluation of traditional methods that we utilize. So do you mean that any of the thing we do in the salon, or particularly any tools for evaluating?
I think it's across the board. I think ways of working across will change, right? So there are the ways you educate on your SOPs, the way you check back on whether people have comprehended your SOPs, how are they executing these SOPs on a daily basis, right? There will be a fundamental revision to some of the SOPs as well, especially where touch is involved, right? So Sachin spoke about threading. We've stopped doing that the traditional way. A lot of our services anyway use single use or monodose, consumables. But again, how can you dial up disposable? How can you dial up, pre-pack, sterilized kits for all the services that you can use? And all this will come at an additional cost. But I think the consumer will value this. And I think it's less about willingness to pay the premium. And the consumer will genuinely value this care that you will demonstrate, not just towards the staff and team, a lot more than value, promotions and discounts and a lot of that, right? So I think this is the time to really deliver care and safety to your staff and to your consumers, rather than, all other traditional forms of promotion and, protocol driving methods that we are used to. So that to me is it's a new way of working across everything else, because the consumer's perception has changed and reality has changed, right? Because if you go to the and still, talk the language of discounts, we need an interpreter, and that doesn't exist any longer.
All right. Before we move on to the next question, I would like to thank Mr. Habib for his time and for all the insightful information he has given to us. He has some other commitments, so he needs to leave. Thank you, Mr. Habib.
Be safe and enjoy and romance with this coronavirus now.
Thank you so
yes.
much.
Thank you. All the best. Take care.
Cheers, cheers.
Okay. So the next question we have is from Gagandeep, and he's asking that do you really think that the small players will not be able to survive the virus at all, the impact of the virus?
Who's the question to?
It's for everyone. It's an open question.
Yes, Pushkaraj.
So see, I think, more than big and small, what is really important is, what is the difference between big and small here, right? I think what is critical is to really understand that a larger player has typically more experience, right? Has depth of experience to understand what's happening, and also has the reach across global markets, across partner experts. Right? We are part of Unilever, so we access the expertise that resides across the entire Unilever network to design our new customer journey. Right? So that is clearly an advantage with the understanding of the beauty and wellness industry we have. So it's less to do with, I think, just big and small, but I think it's to do with depth of expertise, depth of experience. We've been in the salon business for nearly 40 years. We've been franchising for almost 20 years. Right. So I think it's to do with that. So one is to understand depth of expertise in the beauty wellness space, to have, a deeper understanding of how consumers are going to evaluate wellness and general consumption will change. Again, because of our parent Unilever, we have better access to, that knowledge, and our ability to translate those insights into our proposition, I think is something that we are quite proud of and quite confident about. And I think the third part goes about, then scale gets you certain benefits, right? The new way of working will mean some costs. Scale allows you to leverage that to get that at a better cost, deliver that better. And therefore, for a small player to be part of a larger ecosystem, right, is going to be a lot more beneficial, because you have access to deeper expertise. You have access to better ways of interacting with the consumer, and of course, you will get it at a much better cost. So I think that's the reason why I think a player with depth experience has an advantage here. I wouldn't like to say this is to do with small or large.
So if I were to take it on another angle, so I agree completely with what Pushkaraj is saying. But on the other hand, if you're a small player, you have and let's say you are in this business for the right reasons and you're technically sound, then you have the benefit by virtue of being small of being nimble. Okay, you do not have to, like they say, it's a difficult thing for elephants to dance. But if you are a small player, you are nimble, you've got a small team that is focused and can work with you very, very fast, then you can pivot things around much swifter than a large company can. So there are just like there are so many benefits for being a large outfit, which Pushkaraj rightly said. There are also benefits of being small and nimble and fast. So at such a time, there are dark clouds everywhere. You got to look for the silver lining on your dark cloud, and you have to use that to pivot, because that is what will make you survive. And once you survive, then you think of flourishing. I don't know if I'm making sense there.
Elliot, what do you think about this? What's your perspective?
I like what Sachin says for a start, but we're a very fragmented market. It's a very, it's an unregulated, fragmented market, and you can certainly see that there could be some consolidation at a time after a huge change like this. There are, because of the support that's available, and as Pushkaraj says, it's the support that somebody can deliver, and it's one of the reasons that we. See, it comes back to the confidence angle. We offered to independents in the UK talk to us, free support, let us see where we can help you. Because as a whole industry, we are the ones that will give the confidence for people to come back. And so we all need to get through this together. The more that we can do to grow that confidence, the better.
Okay, the last question, this is by Akesh Bhatte and it's for Sachin. So Mr. Sachin, he's asking that, do you think if we send DIY kits for home service along with an online video call session with the stylist or an expert, it can replace the physical revenue stream for a shorter or a long period?
Who is to say? That's my question. Okay. See, it is an unprecedented situation. None of us have been around this neck of the woods, and things are ever evolving. What we should do is, if, for example, we keep constantly evolving and we keep in touch with our customers, then the idea is to see whatever, like for example, right now also, each one of these brands, whether it is small or big, is trying to be in touch with their customers and giving them tips on how they can manage at home. All sorts of efforts are happening to help them. So in the interim, if such a thing that Akash is suggesting helps, I'm sure somebody will try it. Once they try it, they'll figure out how it works. If it works, they might scale it up. It is one of those things. If you think, and I liked what Pushkaraj said here, there will be a million such lovely ideas. Ask yourself those 5 whys, then pilot it, and by all means, go with your experience and try and build on it. There is no one correct answer. And I would also at the same time recommend that you do not foreclose any option. For example, there was a discussion on home as well. So for example, in a lot of other industries, there is an omni-channel. Who knows, there could be an omni-channel happening in our industry as well. So you need to, usually, like right now in the new scenario, it is velocity that you need to go for, which means the speed at which you think afresh, try something new with due diligence, see how it works and go. Do not foreclose options. Do not try and live in the past, but how much you can be forward thinking and ask the 5 whys and then do, that will be the way to go. So yes, if somebody wants to try this, they should, and figure out how it goes. It might work for a smaller time, for a certain section.
So though this question was for Sachin, I would also like to know Pushkaraj and Elliot's point of view.
I just think that there is a change, isn't there? There is more people. We're all now having to be forced to work from home. So
sorry to interrupt, Elliot, but is she asking you to put a massage in a box with an instruction so I can massage myself?
And in answer to the person that asked the question, you need to try things. If your business is closed right now and you can try something, if you get the march on this, like the first PT personal trainers that have got hundreds of thousands of followers, then you could do really well out of this. So, but your core business is still there. And very, very briefly, there could be a really big change in people working from home. Is there a big shift that much more people do work from home? And then if they do, then coming to the salon or coming to the spa or the beauty therapist is going to be a huge experience that people are going to want to get out of the house for, and a massive opportunity for everybody.
Pushkaraj, your take?
So I think I see DIY becoming big as we go. One really needs to watch whether working from home is going to be a defensive measure against COVID, or it will also be seen as a more efficient way of working. So if a lot of people spend more time at home, they will have more leisure on their hands. And therefore you will find, like, you'll find the right blend. It won't replace the salon and it won't replace the physical experience. To me, it will sort of, complement the aftercare or the post-care that we offer them between services, right? But it will be a heightened experience. It will be a more guided, a more educated experience. I see room for that as it goes. And like Sachin said, I think, you just have to watch your consumer, understand your consumer at a deeper level, and, find the right balance between being aspirational and relevant, right? Sometimes you're too aspirational and then you just lose relevance altogether. And sometimes you're relevant and then therefore the consumer doesn't see any joy in sort of, associating herself with you. So there are, like, I think overseas there are brands like Face Gym and all who have tried something like this. It's a different market. I don't really know how many numbers they got, but it did create, a little bit of buzz around, doing online consultations and stuff like that, right? So if beauty or wellness is a religion, then, you have a little sort of, space in your home where you say your prayers every day. And then you also visit the temple and you also do your annual pilgrimage, right? So, there is a role for everything in the ecosystem.
And we are a country where we have large number of people, right? So you will have a customer for ready to eat, a customer for restaurants, a customer for home cooking, a customer for you give me the ingredients and I will do the garnish, you name it.
Absolutely. And you should be as a player, whether you're an individual entrepreneur or you're a medium-sized chain or a large chain or, whatever. I think it's really important to, and I agree with Sachin, right? It is velocity which is important. And my daughter just finished her 9th class physics, so I have a better grip on what velocity is. It is speed in the right direction, right? So I think it is really important to pick the right speed, but it's also important to sort of train the direction right, and it should be sort of, true to your original purpose.
So guys, it was wonderful having you, and most importantly, the takeaway that I feel is that as Pushkaraj said and Sachin mentioned, that it's very important to think of the 5 I's and think forward, think about the right things that you can do, and look at the opportunities that are out there instead of being negative about the whole impact that the virus is having. Look at it as a business opportunity, because this is the time we can think beyond a lot of more points. And also, as you said, we need to think about the right direction, pick a right speed, and execute things that are possible, which are more relevant. So thank you so much, everyone. It was wonderful having you guys here. We wish to see you again in the near future, and hopefully offline and somewhere out and not just here. So stay healthy, stay safe, everyone. Let's fight this virus together. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.